Can you hear me?
So the recording is in progress, and I want to start by saying thank you, everybody, so much for logging on this morning. Maybe we'll all mute our mics right now, and then it is on speaker view, which interestingly, it's showing Ben is speaking. But anyway, this is me, Lorraine, speaking. Grassroots Gratitude. It's August 21st, 2023, and I am delighted that you folks are here this morning at noon. Might be a couple more people logging in, but this is our inaugural Grassroots Gratitude session. And I'm going to just share the screen for a second, which looks like this. Monday meetup. This is the very first Monday meetup Grassroots Gratitude has programmed, and it started in one spot with Ben and I talking, and then it went to another spot with Karina and I talking. But essentially, I'm so excited to launch this idea that we can foster gratitude as the secret strength of everyday leadership every day. And one of the ways to do that is to meet up and talk to one another. So if you don't mind, just take a pen or a paper or just collect your thoughts for a minute. And before we get going here, I want you to really reflect for a moment on what's your mood on a scale of 1 to 10. If you've got a piece of paper, and just give yourself a score. 1 is you're not, and 10 is you are happy, excited, joyful, angry, sad, worried, stressed, overwhelmed. Give yourself 3 different numbers, and we're going to do this again at the end. And then make a note, what is it that you have to do as soon as you log off? Because I know you've got 1,200 things you need to think about. So here's a chance to take a note. Then take 3 deep breaths, and I'd like to say welcome. So I'm going to stop talking just for a minute. I think Steve was coming in. Steve, are you here?
Yep, I'm here, Lorraine.
Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank
Morning.
you.
Happy, excited, joyful, angry, sad, worried, stressed, overwhelmed. What do you need to do as soon as you log off? 3 deep breaths, and welcome to Monday Meetup. Kind of watching, and it seems you folks have things you need to think about. So but let's just take 3 deep breaths. 1 big breath in. Big breath in. And another big breath in. I want to just take a quick minute and ground us in the reason that we're talking about gratitude. And it's really important that Karina has been following my journey, as many of you have been. And it's because of a women's group we were part of, and she listened to me and she heard me, and she helped to build many of my ideas. So Karina, I'm delighted to have you here today. And I want to let you know that there are many reasons for practicing gratitude. There's tons of science, and it gets a little confusing. And in this session and in the course of these Monday meetups, I'm trying to figure out what my best message is, my best gift to community. But I really want people to understand that gratitude is a character strength. And it's also, for me, it's a pro-social motivator. It's an energizer. And this is, if we can get our conversations and our ways of working together on more grateful ground, I think we can service community in a new and interesting way. And in fact, as a leadership skill, I'm exploring this space, and I'm delighted to have Karina help me do that this morning. I want to just go, if you don't mind, just everybody take the mic. I'll call you to the mic in a minute. We'll do each person in the room, because it's a small group, we are being recorded. And the recording will show up on my YouTube eventually. I am recording, aren't I? Yeah, I said I was. You know what? I have to stop the share to make sure that I am recording. Okay, I am recording. I'm going to go back to sharing. Steve, you just popped up on my screen. So do you mind just introducing yourself? And we're going to go one by one around the room to say hello before we go back into the presentation. Steve.
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve, and I'm happy to be here. What else do you want from me, Lorraine? What's that?
Maybe just a connection to Grassroots Gratitude. Do you have one?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I got a pretty good one. I read Lorraine's book maybe 2.5 years ago now, or three. I don't know, right when it first came out. And I'm happy to say that I try to practice gratitude and journaling every day. And it's been a game changer for me.
Awesome. Tina, you're next on my screen, just the way our order is. Do you mind going next? Say hello and introduce yourself any way you want, and what you think about gratitude and journaling.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Tina, and I live in Canmore and work in Banff, and I have worked for Parks Canada for 17 years, and I think actually an underlying theme there is being grateful for working with positive people. Has kept me going even in darker days. But I know Lorraine from her community foundation work and your book, Lorraine. And so I'm a bit of a follower, but want to get more active in the journaling again and writing in general. I'm a big paddler as well. So finding the flow is sort of a theme for me. So yeah, I think I've been doing that this year. Which has been really good. So after this, yes, I'm going canoeing.
Awesome. Right, great. Yeah. Sweet. Kathy Geisler, friend of the family, and just introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Kathy Geisler. I've been one of, I would say, Lorraine's followers and champions for a number of years in different capacities now. And okay at gratitude. I'm good at ideas, maybe a little slower at execution, and for sure commitment problems. So I feel like I have space to to learn and to grow in this area, but really excited to be with people who are living it and committing to wanting to be better leaders and wanting to provide best for their communities and networks of people. So I'm really excited. I spent a lot of time with one of the other Birch siblings, so I'm really excited to hear what Karina has to share today.
Thanks, Kathy. I actually feel my tears welling up. You've been a fantastic supporter, and Steve, and here goes gratitude. When you see gratitude expressed, actually, it just makes your voice choke up and your tears start to well up. Jessie, I'll let you go. You take the mic, Jessie Ashton.
I'm Jessie. I am, I've known Lorraine's family for years, and feel proud to say that I passed that book on to Steve, and he just took it and and really went with it. I'm newer to consistent journaling, probably just in the last 3 or 4 months, although Steve's my husband. He's been doing it for years, and I knew it really changed his life. It took me longer to integrate it. So I've always been really good at integrating wellness into my life, but really happy to have journaling and gratitude as part of my practice on a daily basis, because it's really changing things. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm excited for you, Jessie. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
And then we're going to get to Karina in 1 minute. But Ben, if you don't mind introducing yourself and tell us what your executive position is for today.
Good morning, everyone. Normally I introduce myself as a jack of all trades, but I'll maybe kind of read out some of the things I wrote down here. First one, how I describe myself right now is proud. My wife just ran an ultra here in Squamish, and it's been 3 years in the making. And incredible to watch. Like the kids were our crew, me and the kids were the crew, right, supporting her. And yeah, it was just inspiring, right? So that's a bit about me. On a professional side, I am a business person. I'm a mountain guide. I do all sorts of different things. Part owner in a climbing gym in Canmore. I chair an organization called Mountain Muskox, which helps individuals who've been affected by mountain trauma through group therapy. If you're interested in that, that's you can find them on the web, Mountain Muskox. Really, and I've also been a part of Lorraine's program earlier this spring into gratitude and journaling and whatnot. And so we continue to talk after that, and I'm trying to help her with what she's trying to do. So I'm really here to help facilitate the conversation, observe, be witness, help out in any way. So
thanks, Ben. And I'll just add that Ben he's taking notes, and he's going to come back on as we'll get to about 12:45, 12:50. Ben, I'd like to invite you to come back and summarize what you've heard. If anybody has questions as Karina and I are talking to each other, please put them in the chat, and Ben will help us address those questions. And now it's my pleasure to ask Karina Birch of Rocky Mountain Soap Co. to log on or unmute yourself, say hello, and let's get this party started. Karina, welcome, and please introduce yourself to the group.
Great. Well, good morning, everybody. What a cool group. What a powerful group. When Lorraine went through the list of people, I thought this is amazing. A small but mighty group. Really excited to be here with all of you. And yeah, I mean, everyone I think on this call knows, but for the recording, I am the CEO of Rocky Mountain Soap Company, which is a business my husband and I have run for 24 years. And in the early days, it was a way for us to make a living in the Valley and to get out of hospitality, to do something that was different than hospitality, but to make a living for ourselves in the Valley. And alongside growing this business, we have 3 children, and try to get out into the mountains as much as possible. Lorraine alluded to how we met was through a group of women. I think I've always known Lorraine as somebody out there in the mountain community, somebody that I'd always kind of respected and admired, but never had an opportunity to get to know until we joined the same group. And through that, it's just been interesting how our paths have intertwined and then landed right now in terms of, the work that she's doing in gratitude and the work that I'm doing around leadership at Rocky Mountain Soap, and how we can work together to create this synergy and elevate both of our work at the same time. So I think that's a nice segue into what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Karina. Yes. And it's about at least a year ago that you directed one of your team leaders to work with me to help get more gratitude into the Rocky Leadership University, your modules. And I thought maybe we could just start by asking you to tell us about leadership and self-leadership. And Rocky, you maybe just explain what your theories are on your experience with Rocky and gratitude and journaling and writing and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Welcome, Karina.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sounds good. So I think, the leadership journey started really with myself. And when, we first had the business, I was the soap maker, the floor washer, the bill payer, the ringing in sales. So I was, I did everything in the business that was very hands-on, making product, dealing with customers, operations, everything. The business was one location, very, very small. And as the company grew, I became less about doing things and more about, leading a team, and then leading multiple teams, and then leading leaders of teams. And so my role has evolved so much, it required me to change drastically and to continually learn. And at some point, we had built core values in our business, and the core values, let's say we built those 15, 20 years ago, those values allowed the whole organization to shape behaviors of what's acceptable and not acceptable. And they were really strong kind of key principles for us and the organization, how we hire, how we reward, etc. But at some point in that journey, in the life cycle of the business, and as we're hiring leaders, I asked myself, well, what are the leadership values? Like, what does it mean to be a leader at Rocky? And what are the values wrapped around that? And through a series of meeting other people, and this woman, Aileen Gibb, fell on my lap, and she was a leadership coach. And I asked her the question, how do you define leadership for an organization? And that question led us into 10 years of exploring and building leadership practice and training at Rocky. So that was kind of the high level overview of how leadership started to become important at Rocky. We employ just, approximately 250 people, and a number of those leaders have big responsibilities. The business is highly vertically integrated. We do everything from manufacturing and fulfillment to running the retail stores, and then all of the R&D. So there's a lot of moving pieces, and we need strength of leaders in all areas of the business. And then we need those leaders to work in sync together. And so leading, I fully believe that how you lead yourself is the path to leading others. And so we have what we call Rocky University, which is a mostly online, but some offline learning. And we've been teaching leadership at Rocky, like I said, for about 10 years. And self-leadership is its own module, its own pillar, its own learning component. And it really starts there. In order to lead a team, you have to know how to lead yourself. And every leader needs their own leadership practice. And, to me, when I read your book, Lorraine, and we started to talk, and I started to write myself, it very quickly dawned on me that this is not just a personal practice, this is a leadership practice. And that's how I started to use it. And it was profound. And it allowed me to almost go into this self-coaching practice, to show up from being stuck in the details or getting stuck in a reactive mode or not showing up at all. It allowed me to kind of get through the clutter. Leaders are often dealing with multiple situations. I know me, I'm in back-to-back meetings. So to show up consistent and predictable, you need a ritual to help keep you in this place of groundedness and clarity and focus on priorities. And so writing my way through challenging, maybe two people aren't getting along, or the business is approaching a challenge, writing it out allowed me to get to a point of clarity, to get to a point of saying, what's really needed right now? How could this be the best thing that's ever happened? And to get to the right question. And that is our role as leaders, to show up with that mindset and not get stuck in the details or the minutiae of solving the problem, but to be able to create context and frame the issues for the organization so everybody can work towards solving it. And when I call that the balcony view, as leaders, we cannot get sucked into the drama. We have to stay on the balcony, which is on the balcony looking down into the detail. And I find that writing and the idea of self-leadership is a great path to get there. And I'll give you an example. This last year in the fall, we were heading into holiday, and we had two massive challenges across the whole organization. One, all of our soap was turning rancid, and we didn't know why. And all of our holiday production, we had to garbage. And this is a big moment for the company, right? There's a lot of, our year is built on the success of our holiday season. And second, through some operational gaps, we had large out of stock. It was very stressful for the teams, a lot of pressure on the leaders to figure out how to lead the organization through this. And like I said, it's not always about getting into the detail and solving it yourself, right? With a team of 250 people, you need to be able to leverage the power of the organization to move through these types of situations. And so what happened is there was a couple of weeks of stress where everyone's like, well, why is this happening? How come we can't solve it? And it almost turned into blaming. If only operations did this, if only production did this, and how come? And one of our leaders, who's very strong in self-leadership, she showed up at a meeting and completely changed the narrative, and not just in these moments, but I think forever changed how we as an organization tackle challenge. And she said to the whole group in a very strong way, she said, this is not the time to blame. We are all in this together. We need to ask ourselves, how can we support operations? How can we support production? What do you need from us? And she continued to beat the drum of, we're all in this together. How do we work together? And she was not able to get there until she took herself out of the stress of the situation, out of the details, onto the balcony to say, okay, what is really needed right now? And that verbiage, that narrative of moving from blame to support changed how the teams work together. Instead of creating silos, it created this cohesive organization. And a year later, we're still feeling the effects of that one conversation, that one reframe. And that's the power of journaling. It's the power of meditation, of exercise, of yoga and reading. Is whatever that self-leadership practice is for you, the goal is to get you onto the balcony, to be clear, to sort out a situation and get to that point of clarity so that you can show up in a consistent, predictable way. And so this idea of journaling, I love, because anybody can do it, right? Not everybody's into, 30 minutes of exercise every morning. And most people find it too hard to meditate or not into yoga. But journaling is something we've taught across the organization because it's accessible. It's so accessible to everybody. And so that's, going back to this idea of self-leadership, it is, I think, the most important leadership skill. And writing your way to clarity and to focus and priority in order to show up consistent and predictable is the number one leadership strength, I think, that we try to culture here at Rocky.
Fantastic, Karina. Wow. I feel okay. So we're done. That's great, guys. Thanks. And just log off there. Well said. I so admire your personal commitment and Rocky's commitment to leadership. And you do show up with clarity and calm, and you walk in like, okay, we've got this, guys. And I've never seen you ruffled. Well, I have, but it was only barely. So congratulations on your mastery of this technique of self-leadership and emotional calm and ability to get perspective and sense making of the chaos that obviously, I mean, people must look at you and just think you have it made in the shade. Well, guess what?
I mean, and not to say, obviously, we're all not going to show up perfect 100% of the time. And that's never the intent. Impossible. It's too much pressure. But, it's important to show up as much as possible.
Yeah. And so, Karina, I mean, you've certainly indicated that writing in a journal is a great skill, but I know when you and I talked before, it was about a morning ritual that we discussed and how people start their day. And there's pushback. Mornings are busy. You wake up, you got things you have to do. Finding some time to write is a challenge. But can you talk about the importance of a morning ritual to you and your leadership team?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say that every ritual has to be unique to the individual, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. I think the idea that I want to impress here, and that we make sure we impress to all of our teams, is that here's the box of tools, and you need to pick out what works for you and piece them in together in a way that allows you to be the best leader you can. I think it also changes potentially by seasons. So my morning ritual often involves a 10 or 15 minute meditation. I usually do my journaling in the evening before bed, but there was probably a 2-year period where I just wrote in the morning, and it was 5 minutes. But I find I have more time before bed when I do my deeper thinking. I was writing in the morning, it was 5 minutes to say, like, what's the focus for the week and what's the focus for today? Because I got into this point where I felt like there was so much on my plate, and I wasn't being successful. Because I was leaving every day thinking about all the 100 things I didn't do. And when I reframed it to what are the 3 things I did do, you start to see some momentum. You start to feel more positive, feelings of gratitude and positivity come in. So that 5-minute journaling in the morning was about what's the 3 things I want to do. And when I was completing them at the end of the day, it became addictive, this idea of self-journaling. And so 10 to 15 minutes meditation, and I usually do a 15-minute exercise or workout, and then I switched from coffee last year to tea. So my morning ritual is, that thing I really look forward to is boiling the kettle, making the cup of tea, drinking that throughout the morning. But without that, I can go, if I'm doing that, 4 to 5 days of the work week, I'm good. Like, I can show up consistent and predictable, and I can show up from a place of calm and mostly clarity. I can if I miss it one day, I'm okay. If I miss it more than that, I see the difference, right? I'm not showing up as strong as I normally would. I think I'm good at meeting that ritual now 99 to 100% of the time, because I see the benefit. But again, every morning ritual, I think, is unique to the person. And I think it's normal to change throughout the year. Or throughout the years. As life changes, you might be outside more than inside in the morning based on this weather and season, etc.
Cool. Thanks, Karina. I want to share the screen because when you and I talked, we also talked that there's some reluctance. And after this, I want to talk about how this can work in the workplace when you are encouraging journaling. But if I just go back to this screen again. Oh, I want to go here. And I want to share it, which I think if I do that, this one. So, Karina, we've talked and you have used work that we've done together to try to encourage your staff as a module in the Rocky U University in your online learning modules. So having journaling and encouraging your staff to find gratitude. And we went through, there are some reasons people don't write. And these are valid, and they need to be put up front, that people are afraid of writing something hurtful. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes you do need to rant and insult and say things it's emotional processing. So yes, you may write something fearful. You're afraid that your words will be read by others. And that's, I think, a trust issue that you need to figure out in your own environment. Either if you're going to write something down, thoughts are not facts, emotions flow. You're going to write things that are potentially read by somebody else that would be hurtful, but who said they're true? So it's just you talking to yourself, and you need to somehow find a way to develop that level of trust and comfort that what you're writing in this journal is completely private. What you're writing in your gratitude journal, that may be something more public. You'll think you don't have anything to say. You think your handwriting's messy. You'll think you show up at the page and you just are blocked. There's nothing coming. You're afraid of bumping up against something that's uncomfortable or unresolved, or a memory that is traumatic that you have not yet been able to reframe or get a different perspective. And then, yeah, you have no time, you have no commitment, and it's just not a priority. But over here, there is the fact that writing long, and I'm talking about writing longhand. People, there are gratitude apps, there are writing apps, there's, you know, there's online writing. But anyway, writing increases the neural activity in certain sections of your brain. And if you're somebody like me, I've adopted this term of rewirement. I am in my rewirement. I am trying to find out how to reframe stuff that happened. Handwriting sharpens the brain and helps us to learn. It's good for our executive function. And as leaders, we need to realize we got to keep learning. We don't know it all. And it's that's line, it's what you know after you think you know it all that really counts. Handwriting forces us to slow down and smell the ink. And in these days of distraction, it's really a way to get yourself thinking about what's going on and what do I need to remember? What are the things on my list? And what is it I need to, how do I want to show up? And then this is a scientific fact. Simply journaling for 5 minutes a day. So Karina, when you were doing it for 5 minutes a day in your earlier lifetime, about what's going well, what you're grateful for, that can enhance your long-term happiness by over 10%. So there are lots of reasons not to write, and let's address it and acknowledge it, and fine and fair. But Karina, in your experience in the workplace, does this work? Can it work? And how it works at Rocky?
Yeah, great. Well, first, I mean, we do for maybe 10 or 15 years, we've always started, we have what we call a Monday morning meeting. It's every Monday at 10 a.m. and everybody joins a Zoom link. If you're not in the office, so it's a mix of online, offline. And it's a quick, 20-minute meeting of how the company performed last week and what's the priority for this week. And we always start that meeting with a minute of gratitude. So this is the idea of gratitude has always been a thread for us. And it's a powerful way to start the week. So when we introduced journaling as a self-leadership tool, it was spinning off of this idea of gratitude that we had been doing every Monday. So then we introduced it as a writing tool, as a self-leadership tool, as part of our leadership training. And one of the ways we teach it that I think has been working really well is we have, as part of our leadership training and leadership labs that we do, it's this idea of GROW, which is a coaching model. And it's GROW stands for goal, reality, obstacles, options, and then way forward. So this self-practice, this self-writing journaling practice became a way to you could use it in two different ways. You could just use it like I had initially to just purge everything that's on your mind, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think what really drew me to it, Lorraine, when you had introduced it, was the idea of like, there's no rules, like you can just unleash whatever's in there. And I took that to heart, and I was like just really raw in what I was feeling. And very quickly you almost start to laugh. You're like, oh, this is hilarious. Like this is so like childish in a way, like all these emotions coming up. It's like, oh, it's hilarious when you actually take something out of the mind and put it on paper or speak the words. How very quickly you can get past these superficial emotions and into what's really happening. And so when we use the GROW model, so goal, reality, obstacles, options, and way forward, it's a way for you to journal and self-coach. Because sometimes you're dealing with something that you're not quite ready to talk to somebody about, or you don't have the right person to talk to somebody about. Your walking partner that you'd normally vent to, your girlfriends, your partner, they're not always available, and you don't always want to, download or dump to them. So journaling becomes a way to really just get out everything in there and get to this point of clarity. So oftentimes, I know like last year I was dealing with two coworkers who just could not get along, and they both reported to me. So this was my kind of leadership question, is like, how am I going to lead these two through that? And I journaled a lot on this situation, and what helped me was going back to GROW and saying, well, what do I want to have happen here? Like, if we go to future state and everything's great, what does that even look like? And just by looking at the goal, started to kind of create the future state of, oh, actually, there's some opportunities here that I've been overlooking. And then what's getting in the way? And then what are the options going? So, so actually, here's like future state of what's where I want it to go. And even sometimes just crafting that out of what that future state looks like, that's when the positive emotions start to come. So you're like, oh, there's possibilities here. And that future looks great. So I'm feeling positive. I'm feeling motivated to get there. Now what's the reality? Oh, okay, we're stuck here, but now I've clearly identified the gap between what's real and what's happening in the moment to where the ideal state is. And that's even to just map out there, those 2 points can give you a lot of clarity. And then from there, the options to kind of close that gap. And at that point, sometimes I'll work through that myself, but sometimes that's when I'll actually take it to the team and say, okay, this is where we want to get to, and here's where we're at today. What do we need to get there? And that becomes more of a group conversation, or sometimes I'm still in my journal mapping that out. And even, a couple times a year, there'll be something happening where I'm actually getting up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because my mind is going. And that's where I go downstairs, I pull out the journal, and I'll write and write and write and write and write. And I'll often use the GROW framework to write, rather than just open writing or open venting. And then I find, okay, because sometimes at night when you're trying to sleep, these thoughts are coming out because they haven't been dealt with. So writing becomes a great way to kind of purge all of that and to sense make, and then to be able to know the way forward. So the GROW practice has been really good. And all of this is in order to build emotional management for yourself. How do I then journal my way to clarity so that the next day I can show up and I'm not coming from a place of, I can't believe you two can't get along. 2 grown adults, this is kindergarten stuff. So instead of approaching it from that perspective, as a parent almost, or as an annoyance, it's like, hey, here's what's happening. Here's why it's preventing us from getting to future state. And then, seeking engagement into the solution. So again, it's this idea of letting go of external, right? Oftentimes we're letting go of all the external factors that are happening in this situation in order to get at the root of it, which is what's happening with me. What's the struggle for me in this situation? And whenever you can bring it internally, that is 99% of the time the path forward, because it's easy to blame. If only these 2 got along, or if only, but what's the leadership challenge for me? What does this call on for me to do? What is my role here? When you can journal and get to the right question, that is very powerful. And the more you build this muscle of weeding through dialogue, the more I can actually do it without writing. I can just do it in thinking on the fly. So you start to build this capability, especially because, if your schedule is like mine and you're going from meeting to meeting and every situation is different, you do need emotional management throughout the day. And that, that's a skill that needs to be honed. So the more I practice writing in my journal, the more I can also do self-coaching on the fly, the more I can continue to show up, putting myself on the balcony, not getting stuck in the drama of the details, and showing up as a leader, not a participant.
Great, Karina. I've heard a couple of things that I want to just dig a little bit deeper, but one is that you asked, it's not, so you're not showing up with a solution for your staff. You're showing up open-hearted, open-minded, and you've reframed you're from your balcony leadership position. You're trying to ask a question that helps people find their own answers. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. And the more you practice this, you now have emotional regulation, but it's actually your character strength. It becomes a muscle that's honed. And I was thinking about, you know, mountain climbers, that you're on the wall and you're approaching a difficult pitch, and you don't know what the conditions are because it's out of view at that moment. But when you get there, you, Karina, know that you've got the ropes, the skills, the tools, the mental stamina, that you're on belay, you've got a safety network. And when you get there, you'll be able to figure it out. Is that an analogy you could work with?
Yeah, I think you describe it nicely. And I would say it applies to leadership. It applies to your relationship with your significant other. It applies to parenting. I think this goes across many roles that we play in addition to leadership.
And I would say that those are leadership roles as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, we're talking about your work. We're focused on Rocky right now, and Karina as CEO in Rocky. But clearly, in your life and in your relationships with others, the ability to show up and problem solve whatever it is, that stretches across all avenues of life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Is it always about getting something finished? About getting the job done?
No, I think that, you know, obviously I think as humans, we, you know, our relationship with doing is always going to be very strong. But in this case, the act of journaling is the doing, but the outcome is not necessarily getting to a place of what's next, right? Sometimes it's just coming from a place of self-care or emotional management, like I said, right? So you're just, it's really like cleaning the pipes out of the brain.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think meditation is a comparable exercise that achieves the same result. It's just not for everybody. And a lot of people find it really hard, or it takes years to, you know, become a master of it. So, you know, writing is that accessible, easy tool to achieve the same thing.
And you've mentioned reframing, and is it finding a different question?
I think finding the right question is a massive leadership tool, because oftentimes, you know, I'm coaching young leaders, and their hurdle or their personal kind of opportunity is confidence, right? As young leaders, they feel like they have to come into a room and be able to provide expertise or a solution or ideas or a decision. And when it's going around and you're in a room where there's strong voices and strong personalities, that pressure to be decisive, to have a strong opinion, can be very big. But I often coach, like, you know, if you watch the room, actually the most powerful leadership voice is often not the person who says, here's what we need to do and why, but the most powerful leadership voice is, hey, let's step back. And they say, what are we really talking about? Or what is the objective we're trying to achieve? Or, right, they're putting a question on the table that allows the group actually to move forward in a much more powerful way, rather than playing this game of ping pong. If you find yourself around the boardroom table or in a meeting room or on a Zoom call, and you're going, and it's like, it's a game of ping pong where it's, well, I think this and I think that, and well, I think this, and okay, well, raise your hands. What's the majority? Let's move forward. I always say that's the game of ping pong. But what we want to move to is where we're all on one side of the room and we're all looking at a picture and we're creating it together. And we all in our roles see different parts of the elephant. And until we map out what we're all seeing, we actually don't see the full picture as a team. And so sometimes that leadership voice requires us to pose a question rather than continuing to play this game of ping pong in order to get the group to a way forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Karina. I'm going to pause this part of the conversation right now. We've got about 12 minutes left until 1 o'clock. I hope everybody can stay because this is so exciting and so interesting and so riveting. If anybody has a question that you want to type in the chat box, great. I'm going to ask Ben to come back on. And Ben, maybe you can facilitate us and curate us forward from this point on. And I do have a couple more slides to share, but this has been fabulous, Karina. Ben, what have you been hearing?
Yeah, amazing stuff, right? I mean, self-leadership leads to leadership. I mean, pretty succinct, right? You both summarize it super well. And thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Karina. Such a great example. I guess I'll just start off with a question of my own. Finding that, I'll speak from personal experience, it's really challenging to get to the process of journaling. Just, and I heard Jesse talk about this as well in terms of like, getting this part of a daily routine on a regular basis, it's challenging, right? And so, can you talk about, Karina, like your process in which to discover your ritual, right? Like, you talked about recognition of the seasonality component, like journaling in the evening is better for you, right? That kettle boiling in the morning, that kind of thing. Like you found that, that ritual for you. Talk about how you got there a little bit. It would be kind of useful to me and maybe others. Thank you.
Well, I think the first time I started to look at a morning ritual was when, the kids, I think we had 2 kids and they were, we had 2 babies and the business is growing and I was still young enough. And I had so much, and I generally have a lot of energy, but when I was younger, I had a lot more energy and you said yes to everything. And I got to this place of overwhelmed where it was almost like a survival mode. Like I am going to crack completely if something doesn't change. And I realized up until then, it was like, go, 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 go. And then take a break. And I said, I told myself, it's like being on this fast moving train. Life is this fast moving train. And all I could think about was getting off in order to recover and then get back onto this fast moving train. And I was like, actually, I think it's about slowing the train down and staying on the train so I don't have to get off. And I realized, okay, I need to do things differently. And when I started to reflect on, okay, this isn't working and I'm going to crash and things are going to, it can't go on. I'm in survival mode. I took a step back and I realized like the morning sets up my day and there's, the kids are going in 2 different places and I'm having to get myself out the door and there's a million things to do before the day starts. And I got to the point where I hated even waking up because I knew what I was in for the moment my alarm went off and I hated that morning rush. So the first thing I did was I booked I changed my schedule and I said, I'm not booking any meetings until 10. And so I knew that from whatever time I woke up, I had until 10 o'clock to do what I needed to do. And so I made that structural change in my calendar. I carved out that time. And because I was at a point of exasperation, I was diligent at maintaining that space for myself. And then I started to play. And then I said, okay, like I felt like I can't wait to wake up in the morning because now I have at least 2 hours that I can craft what I want to do. And the first little while, I just said, I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing in that moment. And I played around with some things, right? I tried meditation, exercise, making a coffee, reading, writing. I was just experimenting with what I felt like doing in that moment. And I slowly started to notice what was valuable and what was not valuable and what I liked doing, what gave me joy and what didn't give me joy. And so I know a lot of people read in the morning. For me, it just never became something that stuck. I actually don't, I either want to write and get things off my mind, or I want to exercise where my mind is numb. I want to meditate. So for me, the morning is much slower and much more meditative, contemplative. And so I really just started playing with a lot of things. I think it probably took me 2 years to get to a place where I feel like, okay, this is my toolbox. And it may be changing by season, but this is, I always know I have these 4 or 5 things to fall back to.
Okay, yeah, great. Thanks for that. Does anyone else want to jump in? Questions?
I'm looking at the question that Kathy asked about, do you have a structured journal approach, and do you use different journals? I'm going to answer it, Karina, and I know, Steve, you're dark there, but I know you're there, and Steve, I know you've got thoughts here. We're going to run out of time. I know it. I'm going to answer Kathy's question. Anybody wants to stay on after 1 o'clock, please do, but I have a couple more slides I want to share. Kathy, I do use different journals. I've got my very private early morning reflective journal, and that's the one I write sideways, so I know right away that that's what that journal is. Anybody that picks it up by mistake would be looking at the wrong journal. My gratitude journal is an orange, bright, shiny book that I can leave out anywhere. And then I have journals that words that I like, and I have a journal that books that I'm reading or movies that I want to remember. So I do. It's a very rough organizational system, but it's a chance to, yeah. But the one journal that you just don't want in a public spot, and you don't want to happen to leave it on the bus with all of your children's friends on, is it's a private journal. And if you need to lock it in a drawer, then it's locked in the drawer. Steve, do you want to add anything on this topic of Karina's, or the question around getting to, or Ben's question, how do you get your challenge going? How do you motivate yourself to get your journal practice going?
Sorry, Lorraine, I'm just driving to another meeting. That's why I was dark. But okay. I wanted to just say that I found the exact same thing as Karina, that it's taken me about 2 years to have a full toolbox, as she puts it. And that could be anywhere from like a morning routine. Like people might cringe when I say this, but I have to tie, like, for my own sort of level of ADHD and my need for productivity, I have to tie some aspect of like work and to-do lists and methods of tracking my time. And it's like a whole sort of shebang in the morning, and often workouts. But I think Karina hits the nail on the head, where it's like, it could change from day to day, but it's just about what did you kind of do to set up your day. And so it's morphed into a bit of a pretty regimented system that I have of time tracking, and, into intentions that I'm trying to hit off, weekly intentions that I'm trying to cross off the list. But I totally appreciate everything that Karina is saying here. Thank you. Thank you, Karina.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Karina. And it takes practice. It takes trial and error. You don't hit the ball out of the park right away. But they do say that if you're trying to start a new habit, pairing your habits or stacking your habits, and for me, it was always linked to a cup of coffee. And for me, I was always so excited to get to my desk in the half light before the kids are awake with my cup of coffee. This is my happy spot. This is my time to just howl about anything I want to howl about. So for me, it was, and I often said, I wonder what I'm thinking. I have no idea what I'm going to come up with today, but let's have some fun. So it was with a sense of anticipation and joy. And then, yeah, trying to get to that space of gratitude was always important as well. Ben, do you want to add anything else? Because I'm going to come to the end of sharing the screen here.
No, that was great. Thanks to both of you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Karina. This has been amazing. I'm going to just share this because I think there are reasons that we don't write, but there's a really important reason that you do write, and that is around executive function. It's around remembering things. It's around making your to-do list. It's around, sorry, this is here. But I need you to take 1 minute, half a minute. How are you feeling now? After listening to this inspiring conversation, linking ideas of leadership, journal writing, getting more positive, finding the right question, framing your day so that it works for you. How are you feeling now on a scale of 1 to 10 with respect to happy, excited, joyful, angry, sad, worried, stressed, overwhelmed? And what do you need to do as soon as you log off? Write that down right now. And then I'm going to tell you that I'm going to log off by a small paid political announcements. Gratitude Trifecta. That's where I met Steve. Jesse, I didn't realize you were the hero of this story. The wives are just the heroes of these stories. Thank you so much for giving Steve that book. He's been a tremendous champion and advocate and supporter. And Ben, I happen to know there's a similar story in your reason for showing up at Gratitude Trifecta. Your wife is the astute one. So if any of you have partners that need to show up, I'm so delighted that this message is resonating with men as well. I kind of wondered if it just might be a bunch of gray-haired old ladies sitting around, but in fact, the Gratitude Trifecta Write, Appreciate, Recalibrate Leadership Series, it is for individuals and anybody that's willing to explore the idea of writing. It's 8 dates over 10 weeks. If you want to, or if you know somebody who would be curious about exploring the journal and gratitude as leadership tools, please get in touch with me. The other course that I'm developing and going to be piloting with Steve, it's based on my book, Gratitude Ignition Guide, which second version is coming out shortly. But the new, the program that I'm working for, a workshop series for leadership teams, it's called The Writing Shift. And it's essentially, making a play on the word that we'll have a shift, a work shift where we're going to show up in the morning. And I say morning. I know the morning is not the best time for many people. Some people need their writing as a transition between high activity and getting back to a more restful state. Some people are using the writing for a way to send themselves off to bed. But the writing shift is designed as a workshop series for leadership teams, trying to get people, as Karina so articulately mentioned, the one team member who said, we've got a challenge. We got to face this together. This isn't about blaming. It's playing to our strengths. We've got skills here, guys. We can do this. What is it we got to do? So asking the right question. I want to say thank you so much to Karina. Wow, that was great. And I loved your backdrop. It was just so vibrant and exciting and dazzling. Ben, thanks for adding your attention and time, and we'll talk later. To each of you, thank you for joining. This recording will be posted to the website. And I don't think I posted, but the next leadership series, the next conversation will be Corey DeMano, Mayor Corey DeMano, on Monday, the September 18th. She's going to talk about how she sees you. She's a professional journalist. She uses, and she says thank you to people. And do you know she's been criticized for saying thank you? So Corey's going to come on. And if you know anybody that would like to be part of this, this is me trying to encourage us as a collective and to be connected to cool people. You're a great group. I'm delighted you all showed up. Anybody have any questions? Ask Karina. Just calling through. I think we're just basically saying thanks. Anybody want to? Oh, we're 2 minutes over. Too late. Thank you so much. Any closing comment? Yeah. Thank you. It was brilliant.
Nice to see everyone.
Thanks, Karina.
Thanks,
That was
Lorraine.
fabulous.
Thank you, Karina. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
See you, Jesse.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jesse.
thank you. Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks and happy paddling, Tina. Go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
That was great. Thank you so much. You did a great job. Yeah. Just wait. I just taken. Yeah.
I got to run to another meeting now.
I'm sure you do. It's 1:03. Thank you,
Okay.
Karina.
Talk
Well
to you later.
done. Brilliant.
Right.
Look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.
Bye.